Hey folks, it's Mark here from Harmonix, where we give you the knowledge to get good on guitar, and today we're looking at bending strings. Bending strings is an old art form on the guitar. It's one of the things that distinguishes the guitar from so many other instruments, the fact that you can bend strings and add vibrato to notes, which is something you can't do on all instruments. You would be remiss if you didn't learn how to bend strings correctly and to really get the most out of that artistic expression on the guitar. And bending strings is such a rewarding, cool experience. So I'm hoping this video is going to help you. Oftentimes, people want to be able to play fast, they want to be able to play the cool scales, the cool notes, etc., and to go, super quick. But sometimes it's the nuance, the tiny little mechanics that really make the difference between a great guitar player and a really great guitar player in terms of how it sounds and that aesthetic to the sound. And bending is no exception. For those of you who do know how to bend strings but want to maybe improve your technique slightly, or for those who have absolutely no idea how to bend a string on a guitar, let's get into it. Here's the exercise for teaching you how to bend strings correctly. And also, this exercise will help your ear training a little bit as well, because you'll learn how to bend to the correct pitch a little bit easier and a little bit quicker. Okay, so we're going to start on fret 10 on the B string, and this is an A note. Okay, that's fret 10 on the B. And what we're going to do is we're going to bend this note to the pitch of 11. And we're going to start doing this first of all with our second finger. So our second finger is going to be on fret 10. And our first finger, importantly, is going to be on fret 9 behind it. This is important because you need strength. And what you're going to do is you're going to create like a vice kind of grip between your thumb, your first and second finger. And I want you to really concentrate on feeling the thumb on top of the neck or just behind the neck, pressing in and gripping those two fingers down. And what I want you to do is I just want you to move forward with your second finger and play the 11 with a downstroke, and then come back and bend it to that same pitch. And it's just a half step or a semitone. Like that, okay? Now here's what's important. When you're bending strings, it's not about putting your finger on the neck and then sort of the rest of your hand kind of goes sort of limp and you're pushing the string up with the tip of your finger. It's not really that, okay? If you do that, you're going to feel weak, and what you're going to find is your hand's going to move, but not much is going to happen to the string's pitch. So it's going to be like this, okay? You don't want this. What you want is the smallest amount of movement possible, and you want your finger not only to be on the string, but slightly underneath it so that you're scooping the string up towards the ceiling. You're not going onto the string and trying to force it up this way with sort of front-loaded weight. You're coming underneath it like this and pushing up. You'll be surprised, but string bending is more about the turning of your wrist at this position here, where your bone kind of comes against the neck like this. And what will happen is, if I turn the guitar this way, my wrist is actually moving from this side to this side with this kind of swinging motion, okay? So my finger is on the neck, I've got weight underneath the string, and I'm not just pressing on the note and pushing it up to the sky, I'm coming from underneath it as well. Like imagine if you were helping someone to get up a wall. What you can sometimes do is kind of get your hands like this, and they put their foot on your hand, and you push up, and it gives them that boost that they need. Now, if you were just literally holding them by the waist and trying to lift them, you'd need an incredible amount of strength to lift a human being. But with your hand underneath their foot, you're pushing not only up, but underneath as well, which gives some extra lift. And it's exactly the same here with this. All right, so try and imagine that analogy in this. So if I was to bend this string and I was just going to push it with my fingers, it would look like this. Okay, it's not very nice. But if I get my finger on the string, I've got my other two fingers behind it for strength. My thumb is there, pressing against the neck. I've got that vice grip between my thumb and my fingers on the neck. Everything's really tight, everything's controlled. And I come underneath the string and twist this position in my wrist. You see how much I can get out of that movement? That's you know, you can get a lot of vibrato that way as well, etc. That's pretty much how people get vibrato. It's like a series of small bends, you know, and we'll go on to that in a different video. I'll show you how to do vibrato, but we're dealing with bending here. So let's go back to where we were. So our second finger's on 10. We move to 11 just to hear what it sounds like. And because we're doing this all on one string, you're going to know that you're bending it correctly, because even if the string is completely out of tune with the rest of the guitar, the string itself will be in tune with itself, right? If you see what I mean. So 11. There we go, like that. Okay, and remember, my fingers aren't just on. I've got my first behind it on the fret behind it as well for strength. My thumb is helping, and my fingers are on the string. They're slightly pushing from underneath the string as well, and it's a twisting of my wrist. So moving on, that was fret 11. So fret 12. Okay, and if you're lucky and your fingers are strong, you can do like an overbend, which is a whole step and a half step, which would be fret 13. So that's the second finger, and that's how it feels. Now, trying to bend with all your fingers, different fingers, will feel different, okay? Trying to bend with your first finger, I wouldn't advise doing it too much up towards you. This isn't really what I want to go into today, but if you imagine doing quarter bends on the guitar, which is a very bluesy thing, like your first finger is pretty good for things like that. And maybe a semitone or a half step, like and there I'm bending down and away and up and away, so it would be reverse movement of that wrist. And my finger, instead of being up underneath it, underneath the string and on the string, it would be on the string and slightly above it, and I'm dragging my weight and everything in reverse down the way, okay? I'll show you that actually just now quickly. But if you are bending with your first finger, what I recommend is, unless you're doing a quarter bend, which could be an up towards the ceiling or down towards the ground, which does exactly what we talked about in the beginning of the video, and then inverts it for down and away. So let's take this note here. Like that, or... Okay, most of the time I would advise you bending down and away with your first finger. It seems to be a better idea. For example, up here in the E minor pentatonic position, one of the only whole tone bends or whole step bends I tend to do with my first finger would be a whole step somewhere on the G string. For example, if I was going and I wanted to add in a bend, I could maybe go there. I'm bending 12 on the G up to the pitch of 14. And notice my finger's on. I'm slightly above the string, not by much, but slightly above it, so that my strength is pulling down on the string. And I'm using this part of my wrist, the sort of this pivot point, as I said, just in front of this knuckle here, this first finger knuckle, okay? And I'm pulling the string down and twisting my wrist as I do it. Okay, so... So moving on to the third finger, which is predominantly the one most people will end up bending strings with for the majority of the time that they are bending strings. So let's go back to our exercise again. So we're on fret 10 with our third finger this time, which means you want your second on the 9 and your first finger on the 8, because this will help. And what you tend to find is when you're bending strings, these fingers kind of fuse together, they kind of glue together and they move as one. Because what you want is you want to lock your thumb and your three fingers like this together, and then it's all about just in front of that first knuckle, and you're putting your strength on the string, but slightly underneath. Remember, imagine lifting your friend up by putting your hand underneath his foot, yeah, and then pushing him up to get up the wall. It's the same idea. You're doing the same thing here, and you're locking your hand in place, and it's just a pivot of your hand like this. And what you'll feel is a pushing force on the third finger, but it's coming from behind in your wrist rather than the front of your finger, like this idea, where you don't really have any control, okay? So we're on 10, so we go to 11. Okay, and then 12 for the whole step. And then if you want to be brave, you can try a whole step and a half step, which would be the pitch of fret 13. And obviously you can also bend with your pinky if you need to, but that feels very different. In this case, if we were doing the same thing, you'd have all your fingers on this time. Pinky on 10 on the B, third finger on fret 9 on the B, a second finger on fret 8, first on 7, and you would be doing what we've been doing. So that's how to bend a string. Maybe in the next video I'll do vibrato or something like that and show you how to do vibrato properly, but that is bending a string. So good luck with that. So that is my string bending guide for the guitar. If you learned something from today's video, please let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Another video I strongly recommend you checking out would be this one. So that's it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.